Welcome to the Time Management Podcast with me, your host, Abigail Barnes. I'm a productivity coach, global speaker, time management author, and award-winning entrepreneur on a mission to share the 888 formula with the world and to remind you that it's your time. Leave it to me to bring you new time management tips, tricks, tools, and strategies, to introduce you to guests, research, and case studies from around the world, and to give you a simple 5-step process you can follow to uplevel your productivity, achieve your goals, and create a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. I'm so excited that you're here, so let's get started. To give you some context to this week's episode before we dive in, I first met our guest, Chris Schembra, back in 2020 when he wrote his first book, Gratitude and Pasta. Since then, he has gone on to write his second book. And in this episode, you'll hear how what has happened to him since 2020 and now at the time of recording 2024 has given him the opportunity to practice what he shares in that book, Gratitude Through Hard Times, Finding Positive Benefits Through Our Darkest Hours. I can't wait to hear what you take away from this episode. So without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome to the show. Today, I am so excited to be joined by my special, amazing guest who is called Chris Schembra. Chris, welcome to the show.
Oh, Abigail, I'm excited to be back here on your amazing podcast. And I think you do such a wonderful, wonderful work for our world, really inspiring people to think different, feel different, act different, and how they show up every day of their lives. And you've made such an impact on so many people. We've become dear friends through the pandemic and, now through your podcast and all the work you do. So glad to be back.
Right back at you, my friend. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you are a very busy man. So let's just dive straight in. Who is Chris Schembra in a nutshell?
Oh, Chris Schembra in a nutshell. I am son of Phil and Carol. I grew up on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. I was asked not to come back to college after a number of years, shipped off to rehab, multiple stints in rehab, jail, long bouts of depression. Made my way to New York City when I was 24 years old, started working in theater, met a great mentor named Tony Lobianco. Eventually woke up one day and realized this ain't it. And started hosting dinner parties. And what started off as hosting dinner parties for my friends for free inside my home morphed into a business that I've been running for the last 9 years that specializes in helping big companies create cultures of connection and well-being. We go in and produce programs that help people connect, develop a positive mental attitude, learn new life learning skills, tactical empathy, gratitude, growth mindset, etc. We've been doing it for the last 9 years, and we've had the privilege and honor to work with hundreds of amazing companies and impact a good deal of people, whether it's around the dinner table originally or in the wonderful conference room or online. And it's been a good thing to be a part of.
I am so excited to unpack this and to talk about your business and the impact that you've been making around the world. Before I ask you the first question, I want to share with the listeners that actually I met you at one of your dinners way back in the pandemic, and perhaps we can talk about that story later as well. So let's start off with, what was your relationship like with time in the past, in your early years?
I was a kid with a ton of energy. I was always go, go, go. I could do anything in the course of the day that I wanted with my energy, and therefore time was unlimited. And then on September 11th of 2023, just a year ago, I got into a scooter accident and I sustained a concussion, which is still affecting me. It's called post-concussive syndrome. And my whole relationship with time changed in the moment. Time and energy were no longer infinite. Now time and energy are finite. And I've had to relearn what my relationship with time looks like over the past 11 months.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing. I resonate very deeply with that after my own wake-up call with time. And I would love for you to talk to us about gratitude. This is how I know you. You are the king of gratitude. You have a book about gratitude. Talk to us about gratitude and how you believe that it can actually save us time.
I first kind of came about gratitude in May of 2015. I was working in the theater industry at the time, and one day after a play, someone handed us a poem called A Soldier Died Today, written by A. Lawrence Vaincourt. And it was a poem that gave gratitude, tribute, thanks to our unsung heroes, veterans. And we would bring that poem with us to every theatrical performance we did of one of these shows we produced. This was a show about Fiorello LaGuardia, the former mayor of New York City. And after every single performance, my producing partner, my mentor, Papa Tony LoBianco, would step on stage after the show and read this poem of gratitude to our veterans, to whatever audience we're performing in front of, whether it was 2,000 people at an elderly home or it was 60 people down at Mar-a-Lago at Donald Trump's resort. And it would have a rapturous applause. A, Tony's a fantastic actor, but B, I started noticing that when people witnessed acts of gratitude through this poem, it made them come alive, made them think different, walk different, feel different. So fast forward, July of 2015, 2 months after all these kind of things, we decided to record a video of the poem, giving tribute and thanks to our veterans, and decided to release it to the world. And we picked 16 independent distributors in our network, big social followings, and we handed them the video and said, upload this as if it was your own. You get to give gratitude to veterans as if you made the video. And Abigail, since that video launched on Memorial Day of 2015, it has received over 40 million views, over 2 million shares, and we won 2 Emmy Awards with it. And it proved to me that gratitude is contagious. It feels good to observe. It feels good to give. It feels great to receive, and it has a contagious virality to it. And so this video was going out into the world at the same time that I started hosting dinner parties every week, once a week for free in my home. These dinner parties I started because I'd just gotten back from producing a Broadway play in Rome, Italy. Got back to New York City realizing Italy woke me up. Italy woke me up to the beauties of life. They walk different. They talk different. They honor history different. They make love different. They also eat their food different. They do it slowly with their friends to the wee hours of the morning. And so I decided to invent my own pasta sauce recipe and host a dinner party, gather people. And at that very first dinner, we worked together to create the meal. We had a shared group experience. We ate pretty decent pasta sauce, drank great wine. And I asked a simple question. If you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to, or you've never thought to thank, who would that be? And when I asked that question, I watched people take a deep breath, reflect, pause, and then lean in and tell the most amazing stories I'd ever witnessed before in my life. People having never thought to thank their mom, their dog, their dad, their third grade teacher, their abuser, their ex-bad boss, their mean ex-girlfriend. It was amazing. And it was in that moment, Abigail, that I found something that could have a transformative impact on people. And I knew what I was going to do for the rest of my life. Use the power of gratitude to help people connect, reflect, pause, and make massive changes in their life. That's what gratitude means to me.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. What I'm hearing you say is that gratitude can help us save time by recognizing the things that matter, appreciating the things that we ignore, and accepting who we actually are as a result of the things that have happened to us.
Gratitude saves time by speeding up the process of acquiring wisdom. So here's what I mean by that. First of all, gratitude speeds up time because it helps you invest in relationships. When you give gratitude to people they want to associate themselves with and help you out more, it's kind of a cheat code to building superpower relationships, right? Giving gratitude on a consistent basis helps you build better relationships than I think anything on the planet. But gratitude's effect on wisdom in order to speed up time, here's what I mean by this. There's a researcher named Philip Watkins out of Eastern Washington University, and he did a research study he called Grateful Processing. And there were 3 different groups in this study. First group just thought of a negative autobiographical experience that happened to them in their past and then just moved on with their life. They thought about it and then just moved on. The second group thought about a negative autobiographical experience in their life, talked about it or wrote it down, and then moved on with their life. So that second group actually turned a chaotic memory in their mind into a cohesive writing or talking thing. The third group, though, thought about a negative autobiographical experience, talked about it, and wrote about it, and then found the positive benefits that have derived because of it and gave gratitude to it. Well, you could probably guess where I'm going with this one. Philip Watkins proved in his groundbreaking research study called Grateful Processing that third group, giving gratitude to a negative autobiographical experience, processed the open traumatic wound the best. And it helped broaden and build the brain's thought action repertoire needed for positive affect, hope, pride, optimism, joy, creativity, and further resilience needed to get through their next trying times. So, some people, when bad things happen to them, they let too long of time go by without actually processing it. And what happens, you can't develop wisdom about a learning opportunity, about a failure, about a moment of adversity. You can't develop wisdom if you're just avoiding, ignoring, or putting it away in the head's memory store closet. Wisdom is built when you face something head on, you learn from it, you give gratitude to it, and you use it as a stepstone to advance tomorrow. And in the world that we live in, knowledge doesn't get us anywhere anymore. AI, right? ChatGPT 4.0 has an IQ of 185. Knowledge doesn't get us nowhere. Wisdom is the only competitive advantage of tomorrow, and gratitude speeds up that time to build it.
At the start of our conversation, you mentioned that you'd had a serious accident. Can you talk us through how you have, knowing what it is that you know and teaching what it is that you teach, been able to actually walk out your talk in your own life?
Yeah. So, great question. For context, I got in a head-on collision on the Williamsburg Bridge on September 11th as I was going into the city to pay tribute to my cousin Anthony, who passed away on 9/11 in the Twin Towers. So I was going in to pay my respects, to honor the sacrifice of my family, to be humanly connected with a memory that my family thinks about on a daily basis for 15 some odd years. I can't do math. And bam, hit head on. And so I immediately said, woe is me. Why me? That sucked. I'm a victim. Blah, blah, blah. Got to do a lot of things different in life now. I mean, Q4 of last year, I had to do a lot of things different. But then I opened up my book. We've written 2 books around the topic of gratitude. The first one was called Gratitude and Pasta, The Secret Sauce for Human Connection. Came out on April 7th, 2020, and it's pretty much a playbook on how you, listeners, can host an 18-person dinner party that makes everybody cry in the comfort of your own home around pasta sauce. So it's a playbook for hosting gatherings. The second book is called Gratitude Through Hard Times, Finding Positive Benefits in Your Darkest Hour. And we took the opportunity in that book to educate people about the science and psychology of what gratitude can be used for to help people through their darkest hours. Not just the power of positive thinking, but use gratitude to process the negative and shift into the positive. And one of the things that we collaborated with a number of different scientific research studies on to create is what's called the Positive Benefits checklist. This is on page 134 if you're following along in our book. We took a combination of Macmillan and Fisher's perceived benefit scale and Tomich Heglinsen's framework on the benefit finding scale, and we combined the two. We deleted a few and we added a few, and we coordinated with our research director, Madeline, to make sure there was scientific efficacy on this new checklist. So in our book, we ask people to take a negative autobiographical experience. In my case, for this podcast, I'll talk about my accident, my concussion. And there's 11 points on the checklist. Number 1, did it teach you empathy? Yes, it did. Number 2, did it teach you acceptance? Yes. Well, I'm working on that, but yes, I had to accept things that I can no longer do anymore. I'm grieving the loss of my former self, practicing radical acceptance. Number 3, did it teach you appreciation? Yes. It's funny, in the weeks after my accident, before the post-concussive symptoms started, it's going to sound crazy, but I appreciated the heck out of my life. I rented a motorcycle and drove through the Colorado Rockies. I drank beer on a Wednesday. I lived. It was great. Number 4, did it bring your family closer together? Yep. My family came out of the woodwork that I haven't talked to in years because of their own health issues, and, help me with that. Number 5, did this negative autobiographical experience bring your community closer together? Yep. I had people reach out and help and support in ways I couldn't imagine. 7, did it give you a greater faith in people? Yes. 8, did it teach you compassion? Yes. 9, did it give you material gain? Yes. Crazy as it is to say, Q4 was the slowest quarter of my career after my concussion. 2024 calendar year. Big projects. Great material gain. The next part, did it give you a positive self-view? I'm working on this, but for the first time in my life, because I had a pretty easy childhood, other than being put on amphetamines at the age of 5, Ritalin for ADHD, but I had a pretty good childhood. This gave me an adversity to overcome and gave me a positive self-view. 10, did it create a positive lifestyle change? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The doctors and the health and the diet and the nutrition and the exercise, massive change. And number 11, did it give you greater self-efficacy? Yep, I know I can, moving forward, get through hard times because I've been taking time to get through this. So out of a score of possible 11 positive benefits, I score my concussion 11 across the board, which means, to close out with the sentence on the page, I'm grateful that my concussion occurred because it taught me empathy, acceptance, appreciation, faith in people, compassion, self-efficacy, and more. It's one of the greatest things that ever happened to me.
Thank you so much for sharing. I truly, truly appreciate your vulnerability and honesty there. And also just to acknowledge that it is hard to share when we are actually going through something. So I truly appreciate that you are sharing and that this is an evolving journey and story for you.
Oh, evolving. I mean, right here on the call today, I have a full tension headache. I have probably 10 to 20% fog. I'll have to lay down for probably 2 hours and do a yoga nidra meditation session after this, that my friend Sally Thornton got me into, yoga nidra, non-sleep deep rest. So life's not perfect, right? I still am bridled by my time and energy, but look, I'm here. I'm doing it. Okay.
Thank you so, so much. We truly appreciate everything that you can share and even the living example of what it looks like to go through your own process. Let's talk around what's your current mission based on what happened to you on that day. What are you focused on? What can we support you with? Where are you heading forward in your career, your business, and your life right now?
Our mission has always remained the exact same: to help people feel a little bit less lonely and more humanly connected in this crazy ass world that we're living in. In the past, that's looked like very hands-on work, producing dinners, facilitating small to medium-sized group experiences and workshops, delivering keynotes from stage about these topics. But now moving forward, there's been some opportunities to do things different. When we talk about loneliness, when we talk about the idea of people being disconnected, when we talk about the idea of creating meaningful moments of human connection, I'm not talking about this to help people become happy. I'm talking about this to help people become healthy, live longer, more healthy, even more successful lives. It's about longevity. This is about wellness. This is about health. And so we believe that social connection, social health is one of the missing ingredients in the mental health conversation. The mental health conversation is oftentimes talked about as a solo activity, or you go to therapy, or you do things alone, but they don't focus enough on the importance of social connection, the importance of service, the importance of doing things together. And so as our work is evolving, we're starting to get into the mental health space. Social connection as our unique value proposition as a part of mental health. What we've actually had the opportunity to do recently, as of May 20th of this year, is put together proactive mental well-being programs and start selling them into companies. And so my friend Steven Sokler, he runs a company called Journey. And Journey is by far, I think, the best proactive mental health program in the world. They have an enterprise-grade solution with 30 to 46% monthly engagement across hundreds of thousands of employees across the world. Millions of employees by now across the world. Daily login, digital platform with short form, long form video content, virtual monthly workshops, calendar integrations, Zoom, web, desktop app, etc. So the future for us is combining our efforts with people like Steven's efforts to go ahead and bring big proactive mental well-being platforms, programs into companies at scale that also have elements of the workshops, keynotes, experiences that we're known for in the past. And so that's been a really wonderful last couple months new direction, and it's going extremely, extremely, extremely well. And it just adds scale to the existing ideas that we've been believing in for the last 9 years. Not giving up the experiences. I mean, this year, as I look at my calendar, I've got 43 events booked on the calendar that I'm speaking at this year alone. And it's only August. We'll probably get to 60, maybe 65 events by the end of the year because people buy last minute team building stuff for October, November, December. So it's going to be a great year, and it's setting us up to add one new item, these big programs, onto our docket for next year.
Chris and I were introduced by a mutual friend in 2020. Moments, let's say, before the pandemic shut the world down.
Who was that again?
It was Victoria Taylor.
Oh my God.
To rewind the story, Chris had just launched his first book about gratitude, and Victoria Taylor knew that I loved to interview people who had interesting stories to tell, and that Chris was looking to meet people that he could speak to about his book. So then fast forward, Chris invites me to one of his 747 dinners during the pandemic. I turn up to Zoom with my dinner on a plate and go through the 747 dining experience during a pandemic when we are unable to truly, truly connect with other humans, and experience Chris's Connection 747 dining extravaganza. Talk us through how many of these you've actually delivered now to date, because the numbers are phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Love Victoria. Victoria also introduced me to David Nabinski, which you got to have on your podcast, and he's got to have you on his. So from July 15th of 2015, our very first dinner, through March 12th of 2020, Thursday, March 12th of 2020, the day before COVID shut us all down. Between that span of time, we produced 262 in-person dinners, whether this was 16 people or 400 people. That's what our calling card was, the dinner table. And then COVID happened. I mean, New York City shut down. Nobody went back into the offices on Friday, March 13th, Friday the 13th of 2020. How ominous was that? And by Thursday, March 19th, I thought to myself, the world ripped away my dinner table, the world ripped away my pasta sauce, but it didn't rip away gratitude, and it didn't rip away my community. There's people out there that I know that need to connect now more than ever before. So on Thursday, March 19th, I hosted my first, what we called at the time, virtual gratitude dinner. They started at 7:47 p.m. EST. We went through 90 minutes of programming and facilitation and breakout groups and all these kind of good things. And people cried, they met each other, and they had a great time. And it was all centered around gratitude. So I kept doing those. I would end up doing those virtual gratitude dinners every single night at the start of the pandemic for months on end. And it'd be 30 to 80 different people every single night coming just to connect. And pretty soon, companies started getting word of this 90-minute experience we had invented. And they said, hey, our teams are remote. We need help connecting them. Can you do your experience for our teams? I said, yeah, let's do it. And in the years that have followed, we have produced over 400 of those virtual gratitude experiences. Not dinners anymore. It wasn't about the food at all anymore. It was about connecting people in the middle of the day, in the morning, in the afternoon, whatever. Through these last 4 years, those virtual gratitude experiences have been amazing. They have a guaranteed positive emotional transformation that we measure according to our proprietary Passion Pulse emotion system. Uses inter-rater reliability to study emotional data. That's Madeline's forte. And it's been fantastic. And then in Q2, Q3 of 2023, the world stopped buying as many virtual gratitude experiences. And so we started offering our in-person keynotes, workshops, dinners, again, as well as our virtual offerings. And so if you look at my calendar from this year, 43 events, I think only like 5 are virtual. The rest are in person. And so it's cool seeing which products are coming to market now. We're at our 680th experience by now. 681 is next week. And then we have just a very busy fall. 7 events in September alone. And our hottest selling thing right now is actually not have anything to do with gratitude. Our hottest selling thing right now is a new 3-hour workshop that we put out to the market called Inquisitive Empathy. It's a workshop that teaches people tactical skills, a simple framework needed to have hard conversations in the workplace with grace and ease. How do you create a culture where people can have the tools to challenge each other in a really supportive way? How do you learn self-advocacy, how to say no, how to get higher quality, deeper, intangible insights out of the people that you're serving, but also make them feel like you're doing it in a way that's loving and caring and empathetic and grateful? And so these 3-hour workshops, these Inquisitive Empathy workshops, have been flying off the shelf. Empathy was our word in 2017, 2018. If you look at like the title of me during my TED Talk in 2017, it's Chris, the empathy coach. It wasn't Chris, the gratitude guy. Empathy is actually what we started off in, and then gratitude came because of Bill Gates, and then we're slowly going back to adding empathy into it.
Sounds fantastic. And it sounds totally like something that people really, really need right now in a world that's divisive. The ability to be able to partner and collaborate and work together and find the benefits.
Which by the way, part of the studies that we do, so you said the divisiveness and how the world is. There's actually an interesting thing that's going on. The world's not as bad as we think. It's a whole topic of my newest Rolling Stone column. I've had the privilege of being a columnist at the Rolling Stone Culture Council for about 3.5 years, 25 articles deep. My newest column is on the idea that we run around thinking that the world is in a moral decline. We run around thinking that there's more anger and greed and jealousy and division than ever before. The world's about to end. But there's a 70-year study across 12 million people that was recently published by Adam Mastroianni that actually proved the opposite. Kindness levels have not decreased over the course of 70 years. And oh, by the way, in the grand history of time, we're actually at the lowest levels of slavery, slaughter, subjugation, war, mass murder than ever before. The world's actually better off than we've ever been. It's just that our perception, our appreciation of the kindness of our neighbors and others, it's not there. This is not the most divided we've ever been in human history. It just looks like it because we have a lack of gratitude. And I believe that lack of gratitude is ultimately what causes the demise of amazing societies. I believe ingratitude, the opposite of gratitude, is what caused the fall of the Roman Empire. Lucius Annius Seneca, a great writer, a Roman elder statesman, once wrote that the greatest plague to Roman society is that we neither know how to give nor receive a benefit. Of all the vices common in today's society, nothing is more common than ingratitude. And I believe that's we're going on in our country today as well, in our world today. We're actually doing a lot better than we realize. We just don't appreciate it. So there's an illusion of moral decline. And by the way, there's an evolutionary benefit to that. It's called the negativity bias. The brain was wired millions of years ago to process 9 bits of negative information for every 1 bit of positive information so that we remembered how to stay alive. But you know what? We're not fighting lions and tigers on the plane anymore. We should rewire our brain. Gratitude trips the amygdala filter and then broadens our ability to see positive emotions. Positive emotions affect our positive actions. Our positive actions affect our health and well-being. It's a vicious, contagious, positive upward spiral.
Such an amazing perspective. Thank you so, so much for sharing all of this incredible wisdom and knowledge with us. As we're wrapping up this episode today, what's something you do with your time that you think that other people don't?
I think daily meditation, non-negotiable. Every day, twice a day, I sit for 20 minutes and I meditate. I personally practice transcendental meditation, which is so fun. I'm actually having the global CEO of Transcendental Meditation Movement, Dr. Tony Nader, on my podcast next week to talk about his new book. But it's a moment of rest and pause and reflection. I add in yoga nidra, non-sleep deep rest. I use the Spotify playlist Ala Nova for my yoga nidra. And that's like an hour of rest, pause, of reflection. You know, I think a funny time hack that I have is I actually try not to read a lot. I read in order to understand what I know inside of me already. I let the new ideas come from the creativity within. You have to train that. But so many people look at my virtual book or my physical bookshelf when I'm on a virtual call and they say, what book of that should I read next? I say, none of them. The 20 hours that you would have spent reading that red book right there, spend that doing something with your time. Spend that pursuing a craft. Spend that working on your whatever. Spend that doing nothing. You will likely be farther along in life, or you will likely be in a healthier state of being if you spent 20 hours on your well-being than 20 hours reading a book.
I read to understand what I already know. Fantastic. And before Chris and I hopped on, we were talking about human design. Obviously, if you're a regular listener of the podcast, you'll know I'm slightly obsessed with human design, which for me is all about understanding yourself and trusting your intuition. Chris Schembra, as we wrap up this conversation, where is the best place to find you online?
Probably our LinkedIn, Chris Schembra on LinkedIn. It's just, where we share, daily, weekly information with new perspectives about the world. See, it's a funny thing writing books, right? The books that I wrote came out years ago. I was a different man. I don't want people to read my view of the world from 2 to 4 years ago. I've changed so much. Our Rolling Stone column comes out about once a month. That's a great place to get month-old ideas or views about the world. But LinkedIn, is probably the most up-to-date place where people can get my insights or my things. Now, don't get me wrong. I still do read. You got to read. You got to stay well informed. I read a lot of research studies. I read the newspaper. I do things like that, but I don't let it take up too much of my time because I'd rather spend more time, thinking.
You're strategic with your self-education. I love that.
I just finished up what's called The Artist's Way, and it's a wonderful book on, teaching you how to, see yourself as an artist and change your perspective of time. What it would have me do all program is the first thing that I do every morning is when I wake up would be after my meditation was to then just write. And they say for you to write 3 pages, and it doesn't matter what pops up, but you're likely going to find something in there that's like a golden nugget. And it's called morning pages. And I think that's a non-negotiable for a lot of people to process whatever's going on in the brain. Just get out on paper every morning. Who cares if you're talking about poop or you're talking about the beach or you're talking about Nobel Prize, worthy stuff. And then it would have you take yourself on an artist date once a week. See, here's the thing about my life, and I know we got to close out, sorry, but here's the thing about my life. I'm really bad at investing in consumer-driven things. I'm really bad at buying new fancy clothes. I'm really bad at buying new fancy silverware. I'm really bad at whatever. I'm really good at investing in my artistic self. Right? I'm good at saying, I'm going to cancel every meeting on my calendar and sit on the subway and read my book for a day. I'm going to go walk around Italy and just eye gaze, maybe buy some new olive oil that I fall in love with.
I love that. There is one question that I love to ask people. I'm not sure if we've got time, but I'll drop it in anyway. What's one question you've not been asked that you would like to have been?
Is it all worth it? Is it all worth it? I think when people look at me from the outside, they see a guy, pretty good success, pretty good respect from my peers, pretty awesome family, great girlfriend, amazing, amazing, amazing impact on the world. And I think to myself all the time, the non-suicidal self-injury, the sleepless nights, the constant self-doubt, the crippling insecurity and imposter syndrome, the constantly figuring out what comes next, what do I believe in, what's old, what's new. It's a constant freaking nagging feeling in my heart, in my soul, in the work that I produce, everything. This constant feeling of wanting to chase that next idea, that next new project, that next thing. Is it all worth it? Is there a different path that's just easier, less abrasive? I don't know, but it still keeps me up at night, that single question. Is this it?
There is no right or wrong. There is just the journey. There is just the acceptance. There is just the let the river take you and see where you end up. And on the way, you will have all the experiences that you're meant to have. And if you don't have the experiences that you thought you were meant to have, they were not your experiences to have. And if you have experiences that you didn't want to have, they were part of the ingredients that made up the recipe that is your delicious cake.
My delicious pasta sauce.
Your delicious pasta sauce.
Got to stay on brand with that. I mean, I have the serenity prayer written on my arm. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I got to start living that prayer more, for sure.
Chris Schembra, thank you so, so much for your time, for your wisdom, for your insights, for your vulnerability, for everything. It has been a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Abigail. What a wonderful interview you've run.
And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, it is your time. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to let me know by leaving a review so I can keep the good stuff coming. Come and say hi on Instagram at Success by Design Training, or visit my website successbydesigntraining.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Abigail Barnes. Until next time, don't forget, you are amazing and it's your time.